Mercy, from resing 5 players in one go and being extremely controversial to being one of the first major reworks in which Blizzard's competence was even questioned because it spawned the most brutal meta Overwatch has ever seen to that date, the moth meta, to then falling all the way down and starting Overwatch 2 as a D tier hero, to then rapidly rising as an S tier hero as of today after a major balance change. Let's talk about the 7-year history of Mercy from Overwatch. Mercy is one of the original heroes from the game and has undergone significant changes over the years. And today we'll explore Mercy's balance changes, her rise and fall in competitive play, and the meta she's impacted the most, the infamous moth meta, and of course her current state in Overwatch 2. Mercy was first introduced in 2015 as a support hero with a unique ability. She could fly to any ally in her line of sight, and this ability was also known as Guardian Angel. This made her an excellent mobility support hero, allowing her to quickly heal or resurrect fallen allies. At first, Mercy was a staple in competitive play, especially in the dive meta, which emphasized quick and aggressive playstyles. However, as the game progressed and more heroes were added, Mercy's effectiveness began to wane. Players began to realize that other support heroes such as Ana and Lucio were better suited for certain situations. In response, Blizzard made several balance changes to Mercy over the years in an attempt to make her more viable. One of the most significant changes to Mercy was the addition of her ultimate ability, Resurrect. Originally, Resurrect allowed Mercy to revive all dead allies within a certain radius, making her incredibly powerful in teamfights. However, this ability was often seen as too strong as it allowed Mercy to reverse the effects of a lost teamfight with just one button. And this lies the first issue, that ultimate. Every teamfight had to be won twice, making the game feel a lot more sluggish. And the worst part of all is that players started adapting a tempo teamfight strategy, in which if a teamfight was starting to be lost and maybe 2 or 3 tanks fell, the Resurrect would be popped, allowing those tanks to come back up and continue the team fight before everyone else died, changing the tempo of that team fight indefinitely. Furthermore, Mercy players were simply just playing a different game, and I was one of them when I used to play Mercy. You gotta hide in a corner, you gotta get out of line of sight, you gotta crouch, you were playing hide and seek. It was fun to some extent, seeing where you could blend in and where you could hide, and the minute everyone died, you'd just kind of swoop in for that huge ult. Now, it was fun, but it was also a little bit isolating and not healthy for the game. Blizzard did eventually step in. And then came September 2017. In response, Blizzard made several changes to Resurrect, including adding a cast time and reducing the number of allies that could be resurrected at once. It went from an entire team to simply one targeted ally. These changes made Mercy more balanced, but also less powerful. Well, that's what Blizzard hoped, at the very least. Another significant change to Mercy came in the form of her ultimate ability, Valkyrie. This ability showed Mercy flying and healing more quickly and increased the effectiveness for her other abilities. Initially, Valkyrie was seen as a powerful ability that could swing teamfights in Mercy's favor, and it's because of what I said, the tempo resing. What happened is that a lot of the best Mercies wouldn't wait for a big res. I've already covered that. So what would happen, and this playstyle just continued after her rework, because she would be able to res, pop ult, which would reset the res and then res a second player. And if done correctly, you could res up to 3 players per team fight, which would still affect the tempo. And that leads to the infamous moth meta, largely a result of several changes made to Mercy's abilities, but of course the one we just talked about, Resurrect, which allowed her to revive a single ally instantly with no cast time. This made Mercy incredibly powerful and allowed her to undo the effects of a lost team fight with ease. However, the moth meta was short-lived, as Blizzard quickly made changes to Mercy in an attempt to balance her. And it's crucial to understand why. You have to keep in mind the biggest problem was, well, reviving teammates, and having an ultimate to revive all 5 at once just allowed so many revives to get through, right? Well, after her rework, thanks to her ult and the 10-second cooldown on that insta-revive per target, the average revive across every single rank literally doubled. Mercy was now reviving 2x more players per match across every rank than she was with the ultimate Resurrect in the original Overwatch. At one point, she was so strong that she had a near 100% pick rate. Yeah, literally 100%. And let me just say, the community was definitely scolding Blizzard for allowing patches like that to ever really make it through. And to be honest, it took more than one patch to finally kill the moth meta. Just to kind of run it through, you could no longer insta-resurrect. After resurrecting, you couldn't then reset Guardian Angel to fly away. They also nerfed her speed bonus by 50%, so Hitscan could deal with her a little bit better, alongside a load of other nerfs just to cool her down. Eventually, it definitely worked, and after the moth meta came the return of the dive meta. Now, honestly, Mercy kind of stayed underwhelming during Overwatch 1 for quite some time, but she wasn't absolutely terrible. You know what I mean? She wasn't an F tier, but she definitely didn't really rise back to meta in any prominent way. And then we make our way to Overwatch 2 Season 1. When Overwatch 2 first launched, in the first season, Mercy was literally considered D tier. Niche, but still playable according to CarQ. And it's just because of how hard it is to get consistent value. She did get a small mobility buff coming into Overwatch 2, but that's about it. She was just largely underwhelming. Just for context, that would be the lowest tiered support, because otherwise a lot of other supports were quite in a healthy spot or completely needed, including Ana, Lucio, as well as the infamous Kiriko. With that being said, with the improved movement mechanics, people kept training, and by the mid-season patch, she raised up from a D tier to a C tier. But something happened in Season 2 that just absolutely skyrocketed her strength. And unfortunately, it wasn't a direct buff to her. She got a small buff. She got 5 extra bullets for, you know, those those warrior Mercy players out there. I'm sure they were happy, but that wasn't it. It was the fact that Sojourn got nerfed and now needed a Mercy damage boost to make sure she stayed very, very lethal at range, but then also got an SMG buff, meaning pocketing a Sojourn was just so overwhelmingly strong that it nearly became a must. But it just wasn't that. The A tier strength DPS also came from Ashe as well as Echo, and them being both A tier and also benefiting very heavily from Mercy just alone skyrocketed her. That's the thing with Mercy. When heroes who benefit from Mercy move up the tier list, she obviously will as well. But man, things got crazy in the most recent patch, which does summarize our history from start to finish, in which, well, Blizzard went ahead and made some major changes when it came to Season 3 of Overwatch 2. Mercy just became a little clunkier. They nerfed her movement. They nerfed the way Guardian Angel works, and that high skill ceiling of being able to dodge, especially hit scans, and keep yourself alive. Also quickly realized how much stronger Mercy became, skyrocketing to a whopping S tier. Yeah, in 3 seasons of Overwatch 2, just the start of this game's inception, Mercy went from the bottom to the top of the tier list. That alone is an amazing little story, and the reason being is just because she gained more tankiness. So while even though being a little more clunky, you just survived longer. She gained a little bit more burst healing in the excess healing that went to targets, and this just improved her overall, because one of the biggest reasons she was at the bottom of the tier list was inconsistency. Getting consistent value out of Mercy was difficult, and these changes just made it a little bit easier to get that consistent value. And therein lies the entire 7-year history of Mercy, from beta revives that just completely wiped out team fights to now being sluggish but more powerful. Our girl has went on one heck of a ride, and what the future holds for her is 100% completely unknown.